Hello everyone, I am Coolguy, and today we're going to be going over episode 8 of my Crucible Tips series. We're going to be going over player model in first-person shooters. It's a pretty important subject. So what is player model? And basically it's the character that we have. So down below there's a link to a Valve development community page discussing it a little bit, and basically the player model is a collection of mesh, animations, physics to make up the model of the character. So think of games, and here are a couple quick examples of player models in games. Remember back in GoldenEye when we played with our friends a little bit of PvP? What was the rule? It was no Oddjob, because Oddjob was short, he was fast, but his player model was the real issue. And taken from the GoldenEye wiki page, and by the way that's a thing, due to his short height, he cannot be hit by the normal auto-aim gunfire, which simply shoots above his head. So instead the other player must stop moving and he must adjust precise aim his crosshairs downward to deliberately hit him. And because of this, Oddjob gives his user an unfair advantage and his use is often looked down upon. So in that instance, Oddjob's player model is short. So take a game like Madden, a football game, and just like in real life, if you have a 6'3", 6'5" wide receiver and someone that is covering him is 5'7", more often than not, his height, the player model, is going to be tall enough that he's simply going to out-jump the 5'7", 5'8" guy, right? So those are a couple examples of height affecting the player model. So let's move on to Destiny, first-person shooters. Let's look at some of the traits right now, and it's going to bring us to our first tip. Let's look at the character. Distinct things. The left foot, it's pointing forward, it's pointing at you. The back leg, it's a little bit behind, it's pointed off to the right. This is the stance that they take, meaning that the pelvis itself and the hips are kind of at an angle, right? The gun itself is favored to the right side. Even though when we aim, the crosshair is directly in the middle of the screen, the gun is on the right, but we're shooting in the middle of our screen. The player model itself has the gun to the right, and even the head is slightly tilted and slanted to the right side a little bit. And when you aim down sights, the head kind of goes a little bit more in favors to that right side. So with this and knowing this, I'm going to teach you guys the strong side of cover. That's our first tip. So a lot of Halo players out there, their ears kind of perked up when they heard strong side. It's not the same thing. But let's talk about the strong side of cover. So in a game like Destiny, we want to go for headshots. That's our instinct, that's our initial reaction to go for the head. And I've always done this, and actually I confirmed it in Destiny about 6 to 8 months ago with Cammy Cakes. He was helping me out. And I kind of shelved this, and I decided why not, now is the time. So we just went over the player model. We know how the gun sits on the character. So when you take cover and peek, these player models come into play. I have my friend Callie here. So what happens is if you guys are on the same directional plane, so on that angle, one of you is popping out of the left side and one of you is popping out of the right side, this is when this works. First, the strong side of cover is when you're peeking or popping out of the left side of cover. So in real life, the right side would actually be more advantageous. Think about it. Your gun is in your right hand, you're coming around a corner that loops around to the left. So you peek around that corner, you would draw the weapon with your right eye. But in games, remember, even though that the player model is holding the gun in the right hand, we are shooting our crosshair in the middle of the screen. So what happens is on the left side of cover, if you're peeking, the gun itself is kind of on the right side in the cover, mashed up against the wall, but your crosshairs can see around it. So when you aim down sights, your head tilts even more to the right. This results in you completely hiding your head and your hitbox from the other player. They cannot hit you, you can see them fully, you can see their face, and all they can see is your shoulder. So in the background, we have some footage from both sides' point of view. Basically, as you can see, when you pop out of left, you are kind of hunched over to the right. You can see the shoulder, and especially when snipers are trying to hit you, every now and then it will catch you, but primary weapons, not so much. It's a very rare thing. So I have some footage in the background from different points of view. So in the game, if I have the choice, I am coming out of the left side of cover, always. And you can use that cover as kind of a pivot point in the gunfight. So there's going to be a time, and it happens, I promise you it happens, that when you use that as a kind of pivot point, that corner coming out of the left, there's that dead space when you guys are taking that fire of where he cannot see your head. I can promise you it's a thing, and it happens, and players miss shots on you. So I want you guys to go into a private game. I mean, you don't even have to. You can just kind of see the footage here. But if you want, go into a private game with your friend and try it right here on Pantheon to see kind of what we're talking about. So in Trials, and any game mode really, if I'm peeking, I am peeking out of the left side of cover. So with a primary, with a sniper rifle, and of course they can hit your shoulder, but again, the initial instinct is to go for the head. Like snipers going for you, they're going for the head, and if they miss, they're going body. But they always go for the head, and since you are putting yourself in this position pretty much. You're going to be putting yourself in position first, meaning that you're going to be controlling the engagement, the gunfight in the first place, because you're kind of posted up there waiting. So that's the first big tip. It's the strong side of cover. Again, it's out of the left side. And as you guys can see, when you pop out of left and peek, the right side of your weapon is kind of in the wall and your head is tilted to the right. That's a thing. So the second one is a little bit smaller. It's the way that I strafe, and it's very hard to explain, but I thought since we're talking about player model, that's what it includes. So I'm going to try my best to explain it. And Wish You Luck had a very, very great video not too long ago about strafing and aiming. It's very invaluable information. And basically, when you're strafing to land your shots, and you're not strafing to make your opponents miss. Because landing your shots, initially seeing, target acquisition, like let's say a hand cannon, 3 shots down, that's what you want to do. So I played a lot of Halo, and I was good enough to where I was playing a lot of the professional Halo players. My favorite player is Nated, but I played strong side, Ryan Noob legit. There was also a very well-known big Halo player, and he had a very nasty strafe. And I went against him a lot in Lone Wolves and Rumble, and every single time I got into a 1v1 with him, I was absolutely amazed at his movement, and he destroyed me. So also, real quick with strafing and all this, being online creates lag, just in general, compared to LAN, because you are online using connections. So in Halo, there was a theater mode, so I saved every single game I played against this guy to analyze his gameplay, and I'm actually going to be talking about theater mode in depth for Destiny 2 soon. But I had noticed how he started his strafe, and I started putting 2 and 2 together. So I want to note that strafing in Destiny is a lot slower than Halo, and in Halo, you could do some real work with it. And I'm not going to lie, I had a very good strafe in Halo, and my friends used to talk about it, and in Destiny, they still kind of talk about it. So this does come back to the player model. So here's the regular strafe, right? We go left, we go right, but notice the hips, notice the legs, notice how they are moving. And there's a little thing called break strafing, and basically what that is and I do it, is you're not touching the sides of the controller housing. So you move the left thumbstick to the left, you don't touch it all the way, and then you move it to the right, and you don't touch it all the way to the right. So it's kind of a momentum, it's a movement thing. But with that basic strafe, you can get some unpredictability about it. And again, it's all in those legs. If you catch the legs crossing and kind of do a stutter strafe, which I'm not talking super fast, I'm talking just a smaller, little bit faster left and right movement, that is where your unpredictability comes from, right there. If you catch it when the legs are crossing, if you catch it when the hips and legs are moving in a cross in the strafe, you just kind of do that little shake in between, that is where the unpredictability comes from. So the strafe appears faster, and with the unpredictability of those legs, you don't know which way the strafe is going next. So that's the basic strafe, and it's what I do pretty much exactly, but it's how I start the strafe and what I learned from Halo that is different. It involves squaring the hips. So remember, at stance, when strafing, the player model has an angled pelvis. So if you do a half circle in any direction, meaning that at the base point, you're not moving the left thumbstick, if you go backwards, press down, or if you go up, press up, then do a half circle to the strafe side. So say it's to the right or to the left. I'm kind of showing you kind of slowly what we're doing right here. You can do this in any direction, but it starts with that movement of going forward or going back. You can even do like a half circle, full circle strafe into it. So basically you go up, go all the way around to the left, to the bottom, to the right, and then go left. You can do this in any direction, but it all starts with moving forward or back, doing a rounded half circle to the strafe side that you want, either being right or left. So the character takes a step forward or he takes a step backward to start off that strafe. So when he takes that step, he squares his hips up. I want to show you guys right here. So they're not at an angle anymore. They're parallel to you. They're not perpendicular anymore. So in Halo, this caused a lot of unpredictable strafing. You didn't have to do too much because in Halo, the hips stayed square. Like once you were there, you were good. And as long as you strafed, he kind of sit there and his feet would do kind of funny things, unpredictable things. And once you put the tension off of the left stick of strafing, he would stop doing it. But in Destiny, the hips don't necessarily stay square, but it does have some of the different animations to the feet, to the legs. Again, this is where the unpredictability comes from in changing directions with the strafe. The hips changing direction with the legs. So there we have it, a couple of quick tips that I use in my game that I wanted to share with you guys. The strafe thing is something that I've always done for years. It's never really failed me. It's always been really good to me. And again, when you do that, taking that step forward and off to the right when you start strafing, it's a fast movement. Don't be slow with it. And it might not be for you. That's okay. I just wanted to share it. But the principle still remains. I strafe and we strafe to land your shots. It's just the small kind of step forward or backward to start the strafe that I do differently. But the main tip here today is the strong side of cover. I hope that you learned something, I hope that you liked it, and a positive rating for the video is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, I am Coolguy.